everyone, and welcome to the channel. My name is Jo Herrica. I want you to ask yourself a quick question. Have you ever felt like you're stuck? Like you're running on a treadmill, putting in all the effort, but not really going anywhere? What if I told you that the one thing holding you back isn't your talent, your intelligence, or how hard you work? What if it was just a single hidden belief in your mind? Today, we're going to dive deep into that idea with a full audiobook that I am so incredibly excited to share with you. This is part 1 of the Foundation series, and it's called The #1 Mindset That Keeps You Stuck and How to Fix It. I truly believe the ideas in this book are the absolute bedrock of all self-improvement. Listening to this won't just motivate you for a day, it will give you a practical toolkit to fundamentally change the way you see your own potential. It will help you turn the fear of failure into your greatest advantage and unlock a level of growth you might not think is possible right now. So please get comfortable, grab your headphones, and give yourself this time. You're not just about to listen to a book, you're about to install a powerful new operating system for your mind. Let's begin.
Book summary. Have you ever told yourself, I'm just not a creative person? I'm terrible at public speaking. I'd love to learn that skill, but I'm just not smart enough. What if I told you that voice in your head isn't you? It's just a piece of buggy software running in your brain, an outdated operating system called FixedOS. For years, this hidden programming has been quietly sabotaging your growth, making you fear failure, avoid challenges, and believe that your talents are set in stone. It's the #1 reason you feel stuck and the invisible barrier between you and your true potential. In the first book of the groundbreaking Foundation series, doctor, YouTuber, and productivity expert Ali Erickson-Yal reveals how to uninstall this limiting software and upgrade to GrowthOS, an operating system built on a powerful, scientifically proven idea. Your brain is not fixed. It's a muscle. With the right training, it can learn, adapt, and grow stronger in any area you choose. Forget vague motivational quotes. This is a practical, relatable guide to rewiring your brain. Inside, you'll discover the 2 programmers, a simple analogy that will forever change how you see your own abilities. The I'm not good at fallacy, how to diagnose and dismantle the core belief that holds you back. Why failing is the best way to succeed. Learn to treat failure not as a verdict on your identity, but as invaluable data to help you improve. The most powerful word in your vocabulary, a simple 3-letter word that can instantly shift you from a closed mindset to one of infinite possibility. Your 3-day mindset makeover, a ridiculously simple, actionable challenge to begin installing your new operating system today. This isn't just a book. It's the first step in a system for building a more productive, fulfilling, and fearless life. If you're ready to stop being your own biggest obstacle and unlock the potential you know you have, your upgrade is waiting.
Introduction: The 2 programmers. All right, hey friends, welcome. Before we get started, I want you to imagine something with me. Picture your brain, that incredible 3-pound universe sitting between your ears, as a brand new computer, fresh out of the box. The hardware is top of the line, unlimited potential, incredible processing power, the works. Now, every computer needs an operating system to function, and for the sake of this little thought experiment, let's imagine that from the day we were born, each of us had one of 2 fundamental operating systems installed at the factory. We'll call the first one FixedOS, and the second one we'll call GrowthOS. These 2 systems look almost identical on the surface. They run the same basic programs: walking, talking, eating, sleeping, and for some reason, an inexplicable urge to watch just one more episode on Netflix at 2 a.m. But underneath the hood, their core programming is radically different. And that difference, that single line of code, changes absolutely everything about how the computer performs over its lifetime. FixedOS runs on a very simple, very rigid piece of code. You have a set amount of talent and intelligence. Your abilities are finite. that's your lot. Growth OS, on the other hand, operates on a completely different principle. Your abilities are a starting point. Your intelligence and talents can be developed through effort, good strategies, and learning from others. For a huge chunk of my life, I was unknowingly running on FixedOS, and I can pinpoint the exact moment I felt its limitations crashing down on me. It was my first year of med school at Cambridge. Now, you might think, Allie, you got into Cambridge, you must have been a pretty confident guy. And you'd be partly right. I was good at the school game. I knew how to memorize facts, how to study for exams, and how to tick the right boxes. That was my programming. Then we started our anatomy classes. I walked into that first session feeling pretty good. How hard could it be? It's just memorizing body parts, right? Wrong. So wrong. I was suddenly drowning in a sea of Latin names, complex diagrams of the brachial plexus, and 3D models of the skull that looked more like abstract sculptures than anything human. My friends seemed to be getting it. They'd be in the corner, casually pointing out the foramen ovale or tracing the path of the trigeminal nerve. And me, I was just staring at the same diagram for an hour, and the information felt like it was physically bouncing off my brain. The FixedOS error message started flashing in my head, bright and terrifying. Error, insufficient talent. The internal monologue was brutal. See, you're not smart enough for this. You were good at A levels, but this is a different league. These other people are natural doctors. You're an imposter. You've hit your ceiling. Every mistake I made in the dissection lab wasn't just a mistake. It was a verdict. It was proof that I didn't have the anatomy gene. I started dreading the classes. I'd feel a knot in my stomach on the walk over, my brain already bracing for the inevitable confirmation that I just wasn't cut out for it. It was frustrating, it was demoralizing, and honestly, it was exhausting. I was spending more energy trying to look like I understood what was going on than actually learning. That is the core function of FixedOS. It turns every challenge into a threat. It makes you terrified of failure because it sees failure not as an event, but as an identity. I failed becomes I am a failure. Now imagine if I'd had Growth OS installed. The experience would have been completely different. A struggle with the brachial plexus wouldn't have triggered a crisis of identity. The error message would have been different. It might have said, "New challenge detected, deploy learning strategies." The internal monologue would have shifted from "I'm not smart enough" to "Okay, this is harder than I thought. How are other people studying for this? What's a different way I can approach this diagram? Maybe I can use an analogy or a mnemonic." Failure would have been just data, useful information telling me that my current strategy wasn't working and that I needed to try a new one. This is the big idea, the absolute bedrock upon which we're going to build everything else in this series. Your beliefs about your own abilities, the operating system you're running, are the foundation of your entire life. This isn't about your current skill level, your IQ, or your list of accomplishments. It's about the lens through which you see your own potential. Are you running an OS that tells you your abilities are carved in stone? Or are you running one that knows you can grow, adapt, and learn absolutely anything you set your mind to? Because one system leads to stagnation, fear, and feeling stuck. The other leads to resilience, learning, and a world of infinite possibility. In the next chapter, we're going to unpack the nuts and bolts of FixedOS. We'll look at why it's so common, how it sneakily holds us back in our careers, hobbies, and relationships, and why proclamations like, "I'm just not a maths person," is one of the biggest lies we tell ourselves. It's time to check for a system update. Let's get into it.
Chapter 1. The "I'm not good at" fallacy. Have you ever said something like this? "Oh, I'd love to learn guitar, but I'm just not musical. I have to give a presentation next week and I'm dreading it. I'm just terrible at public speaking. My doodles look like a toddler's scribbles. I'm not a creative person at all." We all have a version of this. It's that one thing, or let's be honest, sometimes a few things, that we've neatly packaged up, put a label on, and filed away in a cabinet in our brain marked "Things I am bad at. And once it's in that cabinet, we rarely, if ever, open it again. This, my friends, is the signature feature of the FixedOS. It's the pop-up notification you can't close, the background app that drains all your battery. It's the "I'm not good at" fallacy. And it's one of the most effective pieces of malware ever written for the human brain. The FixedOS has one primary directive: protect your status. It wants to prove at all costs that you are smart, talented, and capable. And so it develops a very clever but ultimately self-defeating strategy. It convinces you that your abilities are inherent, like your eye color or your height. You're either born a maths person or you're not. You either have the creative gene or you don't. And if that's true, then any challenge becomes a high-stakes exam. If you try something and you're not immediately good at it, the FixedOS doesn't say, "Okay, that was the first attempt. Let's learn and try again." No, it sounds the alarm. It flashes a giant red warning sign that says, "Danger! Your core identity as a smart person is under threat." Failure isn't just an outcome, it's a permanent stain on your record. Effort isn't the process of getting better, it's evidence that you weren't good enough in the first place. Because if you were a natural, you wouldn't have to try so hard, right? This mindset causes a constant need to prove ourselves over and over again. I have a slightly embarrassing story about this. My housemates were all completely obsessed with the game Hollow Knight. It's this beautiful, atmospheric, but notoriously difficult game, and they would rave about it, telling me how incredible the world was and how satisfying it was to finally beat a tough boss. Part of me really wanted to join in, but the much larger, much louder part of my brain, my trusty FixedOS, immediately started its defensive monologue. Allie, you know you're not great at these types of games. Remember how long it took you to get past that first level in Celeste? You're going to be terrible at this. Everyone else will be flying through it, and you'll be stuck on the tutorial boss for 3 days. It's going to be embarrassing. Just say it's not your type of game and stick to playing Age of Empires. And so that's what I did. I avoided it. I made excuses. I protected my fragile ego from the danger of being a beginner. I chose not to even try rather than risk the verdict of failure. The fear of being bad at something completely prevented me from experiencing something I probably would have loved. It sounds ridiculous when I say it out loud now, but the FixedOS is incredibly persuasive. It's a master of self-preservation. It's the voice that tells you not to apply for that job because you might not get it. It's the feeling that makes you stay quiet in a meeting rather than ask a stupid question. It's the reason you tell yourself you'll never be a morning person instead of trying to adjust your sleep schedule. The fixed mindset stifles our potential by making us fear challenges, which are essential for growth. Think about it. Every "I'm not good at" statement is a closed door. It's a full stop. It's the end of the conversation. There's no room for growth, no possibility of improvement. You have defined your limits, and in doing so, you've made them your reality. But what if that label isn't permanent? What if it's just written in pencil, not permanent marker? What if "I'm not good at public speaking" just means I haven't practiced public speaking enough to feel comfortable with it yet? What if "I'm not creative" actually means I haven't spent time developing my creative skills? This is not about pretending you're an expert at everything. I am still, for the record, not particularly good at Hollow Knight. The difference is that my operating system has changed. I can now see a path from not good to getting better, and that makes all the difference. There is a different way to operate. A more powerful, a more flexible, and frankly, a much more fun operating system for our minds. It's an OS that sees challenges not as threats, but as opportunities. It's an OS that understands that effort is not a sign of weakness, but the very engine of growth. In the next chapter, we're going to install it. We're going to explore the magic of the Growth OS and how a simple mental switch can turn your brain from a fragile statue into a muscle that gets stronger every single time you use it.
Chapter 2. Your brain's hidden superpower that you're probably not using. All right, so in the last chapter, we diagnosed the problem. The sneaky, life-limiting software called FixedOS and its favorite program, the I'm not good at fallacy. It's the voice that tells us our talents are set in stone, making us terrified of failure and resistant to challenges. If FixedOS is the villain of our story, then this chapter is where we meet the hero. And the hero is an idea so simple, yet so profoundly powerful, that it can fundamentally change the way you approach everything. Are you ready for it? Here it is. Your brain is a muscle.
That's it. That's the tweet. Okay, let's be technically accurate for a moment. No, your brain isn't a bicep. You can't flex it in the mirror, though that would be a fun party trick. But the analogy is one of the most useful lies you can ever tell yourself. Because in the way that matters most, it's completely true. For decades, we used to think of the brain as being like a piece of hardware that was pretty much fixed by the time we reached adulthood. You got the brain you got, and that was that. But over the past few years, neuroscience has shown us something incredible, a concept called neuroplasticity. In simple terms, neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections. Think of your brain as a dense forest. When you learn something for the first time, it's like hacking your way through the undergrowth with a machete. It's slow, difficult, and messy work. You're creating a new, faint path. But every time you practice that skill, whether it's a guitar chord, a line of code, or a tricky equation, you walk down that path again. The path gets wider, clearer, and easier to travel. The weeds get trampled down, the branches get pushed aside. Eventually, that rough path becomes a well-worn trail, then a paved road, and finally a multi-lane motorway. The signal can travel down that pathway with incredible speed and efficiency. You have physically rewired your brain. That's not just a nice metaphor, it's a biological fact. When you challenge yourself, when you struggle, when you make mistakes and correct them, you are literally building a better brain. Let's use a couple of analogies to really bring this home. First, the gym analogy. Imagine you decide you want to get stronger, so you go to the gym for the first time. You pick up a dumbbell and you can barely manage 5 curls. Your arm is shaking. It feels incredibly difficult, and the next day your muscles are sore. Now, if you were operating on FixedOS, your internal monologue would be, "See, I'm just not a strong person. This is proof. I'm clearly not cut out for this." You'd interpret the struggle and the soreness as a sign of failure, and you probably wouldn't go back. But that's not how it works, is it? We all understand that the struggle, the effort, the soreness, that's the point. That's the feeling of your muscles breaking down so they can rebuild stronger. You wouldn't go to the gym once, do 1 bicep curl, and then get frustrated that you don't look like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. You know it takes consistent reps over time. Learning a new skill is exactly the same. The feeling of confusion, the frustration of making mistakes, that isn't a verdict on your ability. That is the feeling of growth. That is your brain doing its push-ups. Second, the video game analogy. Think about the last time you played a challenging video game. You get to a new level or a tough boss. What happens? You probably fail. Maybe you failed 10 times, maybe 50. But what do? You don't throw the controller at the wall and declare, "That's it, I am fundamentally bad at video games and my identity is shattered." No. Your immediate thought is, "Okay, that didn't work. The boss has a swooping attack, so I need to dodge left instead of right. I need to time my jump better." Every failure is just a data point. It's information. It's feedback that you use to adjust your strategy for the next attempt. You are actively looking for the challenge because you know that overcoming it is how you progress in the game.
This is the growth mindset in its purest form. It reframes failure as feedback. It recasts challenges as opportunities to level up. It understands that effort is the mechanic for improvement. This is the core programming of FixedOS. It's the belief that your abilities are not fixed entities, but skills that can be cultivated. The key takeaway here is that you're not stuck with the hand you were dealt. Your brain is malleable. Your potential is not a fixed point, but an ever-expanding horizon. You are not a finished product, you're a work in progress. Realizing this is like discovering you've had this superpower all along, but just weren't using it. The power to learn, to adapt, and to grow is built into your very biology. So, now that we understand the difference between the two operating systems, the next question is, how do we start enjoying the process? How do we turn failure from something to be feared into something that's actually fun? In the next chapter, we're going to explore exactly that. We'll look at the surprising joy of being a failure and how to embrace the beginner's mind in everything you do.
Chapter 3: Why failing is the best way to succeed. Let's be honest, the word failure just feels bad. It's a heavy word. It lands with a thud in your stomach. No one wakes up in the morning and thinks, I can't wait to go out and spectacularly fail at something today. We're conditioned from a young age to see failure as the opposite of success. It's the red F on a test paper, the last place trophy, the thing to be avoided at all costs. For the FixedOS, this makes perfect sense. If your abilities are set in stone, then failure is the ultimate judgment. It's a universe looking you in the eye and saying, told you so, you don't have what it takes. The natural response is shame, embarrassment, and a powerful urge to retreat and never try that thing again. But for the FixedOS, failure is something else entirely. It isn't a verdict. It isn't the end of the story. It's just data. It's the most valuable, information-rich, and useful feedback you could ever ask for. It's a signpost that clearly says, wrong way, try another path. I want to tell you about one of my own most valuable failures. It was back in the early days of my YouTube channel. I'd been making videos for a little while, mostly study-related content, and I had this idea for a video that I was convinced was absolute genius. It was going to be my breakout hit. I spent an entire weekend on it. I meticulously scripted it, borrowed a friend's slightly better camera, and spent hours trying to get the lighting just right in my dorm room. I edited it for what felt like an eternity, adding little graphics and sound effects I just learned how to make. In my head, this video was the pinnacle of my creative achievement. I hit publish, leaned back in my chair, and waited for the views, the praise, and the adoring comments to roll in. And what I got was crickets. Well, not just crickets. After 24 hours, the video had something like 52 views, and I'm pretty sure half of those were from my mom. The few comments it did get were things like, the audio's a bit tinny, and kind of boring intro, mate. Ouch. My first reaction was pure FixedOS. A wave of heat washed over my face. The internal monologue started immediately. This is so embarrassing. You spent a whole weekend on this, and nobody cares. The people who did watch it thought it was boring. You're clearly not a YouTuber. You're just a med student playing with a camera. Maybe you should just delete the video. Maybe the whole channel. I was genuinely close to quitting. That feeling of putting your heart into something and having it fall completely flat is crushing. Failure in that moment felt like a final verdict on my creative abilities. But then, after sulking for a day or two, a different thought started to creep in. It was a quieter, more curious voice. The voice of the nascent FixedOS I was trying to cultivate. It asked a simple question. Why did it fail? Instead of just accepting the verdict of, I'm a bad YouTuber, I forced myself to become a detective. I put my bruised ego aside and started looking for clues. The data. I looked at the analytics. People were clicking off within the first 15 seconds. Okay, clue number 1. The intro was the problem. It was too slow and self-indulgent.
The criticism. I reread that comment. Kind of boring intro, mate. It stung. But was it true? Yes, it absolutely was. Clue number 2. The feedback, however blunt, contained a kernel of truth. The comparison. I opened up videos from YouTubers I admired. What were they doing? Their thumbnails were bright and intriguing. Their titles sparked curiosity. Their first 10 seconds hooked you immediately. My video, by comparison, looked and sounded amateurish. Suddenly, that failure was no longer a verdict. It had transformed into the single best, most detailed lesson plan I could have ever asked for. That one flop of a video taught me more than 10 moderately successful ones ever could have. It gave me a concrete to-do list for my next video. Make a better thumbnail. Write a title that poses a question. Script a hook for the first 10 seconds. Learn how to fix my audio. This experience drilled into my head 3 crucial lessons. Lessons that are at the very heart of the growth mindset. Embracing challenges is where the growth happens. Hitting publish on that video was scary. Getting the negative feedback was painful. But staying in my comfort zone of just making videos for myself would have taught me nothing. The real learning happened when I put my work out there to be judged and potentially to fail. Effort is the path to mastery. My genius idea wasn't enough. It took the effort of analyzing my failure and the subsequent effort of learning about thumbnails, titles, and editing to actually get better. Mastery isn't a gift. It's a consequence of thousands of these tiny loops of trying, failing, learning, and trying again. Learning from criticism is a superpower. The ability to separate a critique of your work from a critique of your identity is one of the most valuable skills you can develop. Those comments weren't saying, Ali, you're a boring person. They were saying, Ali, the intro to this specific video is boring. One is a verdict. The other is actionable feedback. Failure isn't the opposite of success. It's an integral part of the process. It's the raw data you feed into your learning algorithm. So now we know we need to reframe failure. But how do we do that in a practical, day-to-day way? It often starts with the language we use, especially the language we use inside our own heads. In the next chapter, we're going to introduce the single most powerful word you can add to your vocabulary to instantly activate your growth mindset. It's a tiny, 3-letter word that can change everything.
Chapter 4, the most powerful word in your vocabulary. All right, friends, so far we've been doing the big picture stuff. We've diagnosed the buggy software of the fixed mindset, we've introduced the powerful upgrade of the growth mindset, and we've reframed the terrifying concept of failure into our single most useful source of data. This is all great in theory, but theory doesn't get us very far if we can't apply it when we're staring at a blank page, a confusing spreadsheet, or a guitar that refuses to make a sound other than a sad buzzing thump. So the question is, how do we start running Growth OS in our day-to-day lives? How do we take these big ideas and turn them into a practical tool? I'm going to tell you that it starts with a single word. A word so small and unassuming you've probably said it 1,000 times today without even thinking about it. But when used intentionally, this one word has the power to completely short-circuit the fixed mindset and reboot your brain into a state of growth. The word is yet. That's it, a tiny 3-letter word, but it might just be the most powerful word in your vocabulary. Let me show you what I mean. Remember those classic FixedOS statements from Chapter 1? Those labels we stick on ourselves, those doors we close and lock? I'm not good at public speaking. I can't code. I don't understand this. These are definitive statements. They are full stops. They are verdicts delivered with the finality of a judge's gavel. They declare a permanent state of being, and there's no room for discussion. This is who I am. End of story. Now, let's perform a tiny piece of linguistic surgery. Let's just add our magic word to the end of each of those sentences. I'm not good at public speaking, yet. I can't code, yet. I don't understand this, yet. Feel the difference? It's like a switch has been flipped. The full stop has been transformed into a comma. The verdict
has been changed to a progress report. A closed door has become a path stretching out before you. The word yet doesn't deny your present reality. It acknowledges it. It's not about toxic positivity or pretending you're a world-class coder when you haven't written a single line. It's about acknowledging where you are right now, while simultaneously implying that your current position is temporary. It builds a bridge from your present self to your future self. It reframes your identity from a fixed state into a dynamic process of learning. When I was first learning to play the guitar, I spent weeks trying to form a clean F chord. My fingers felt clumsy and weak, the strings would buzz, and my hand would cramp up. My internal monologue, running on good old FixedOS, was having a field day. See, you don't have guitar fingers. You started too late. You can't do this. It was incredibly frustrating, but I had just learned about this concept, so I started a conscious experiment. Every time that voice in my head said, "You can't play an F chord," I would force myself to add that one little word. You can't play an F chord yet. It felt a bit silly at first, but something remarkable started to happen. That small addition gave me just enough psychological breathing room to keep going. It stopped the frustration from spiraling into a verdict on my musical ability. It reminded me that this was part of the process, the path everyone who has ever learned guitar has walked. It kept me in the game long enough for my fingers to build the strength and muscle memory they needed. This isn't just a psychological trick. It's a way of priming your brain for action. When you say, "I can't do it," you are essentially telling your brain that the task is complete, the case is closed. Your brain, ever efficient, can then downshift, mark the problem as unsolvable, and move on. It's a defense mechanism that protects you from the discomfort of struggle. But when you add, "but yet," you create an open loop. You're sending a powerful signal to your brain that says, this problem is not solved, but it is solvable. The process is ongoing. This simple linguistic shift keeps the relevant neural pathways active. It tells your brain to stay engaged, to keep looking for solutions, and to remain open to new information and strategies. It reframes the struggle not as a sign of failure, but as a necessary part of the learning process. This idea was pioneered by Dweck, a psychologist at Stanford University whose research on the growth mindset has transformed our understanding of learning and achievement. Her work shows that people generally hold one of two beliefs about their own abilities. Those with a fixed mindset believe their intelligence and talents are innate, fixed traits. They spend their lives trying to prove they have enough. In contrast, those with a growth mindset believe their abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work. They understand that talent is just a starting point and that effort is the key to mastery. The word "yet" is the key that unlocks the door to a growth mindset. It transforms a challenge from a threat to your identity into an opportunity for growth. It's a reminder that where you are right now is not a permanent address, but a temporary stop on a much longer journey of learning. This is not about ignoring reality. It's about framing that reality in a way that empowers you. "I haven't mastered this skill yet" is a much more powerful and accurate statement than "I'm terrible at this." The first statement acknowledges a current lack of skill while creating a clear path forward. The second is a dead end. So, how do we begin to make this a habit? How do we take this tiny, powerful word and integrate it into our daily operating system? In the next chapter, we're going to get incredibly practical. I'll walk you through a simple, actionable 3-day challenge that will help you start uninstalling the old FixedOS and begin installing this new, more powerful way of thinking. It's time to put the theory into practice.
Chapter 5, Your 3-Day Mindset Makeover. All right, hey friends, we've reached the most important part of this entire book. Seriously, you can understand all the theories about fixed versus growth mindsets, you can nod along to the analogies about your brain being a muscle, and you can appreciate the power of the word "yet," but knowledge without action is just trivia. This is where we take the blueprint and lay the first brick. We're not going to do anything complicated. In fact, what I'm about to ask you to do is so simple, you might be tempted to dismiss it, but I promise you, this is the most crucial first step you can take. It's the first rep in the gym for your brain, the one that starts the process of building a new, stronger mindset. Welcome to your 3-day mindset makeover. I prefer to call it the Yet Challenge. Here is your mission, should you choose to accept it. It's a simple 2-step process. The actionable homework. For the next 3 days, I want you to become a detective of your own thoughts. Your only job is to listen. Catch yourself. Listen for those classic FixedOS phrases, both the ones you say out loud and the ones you just think. Specifically, listen for the 2 big ones. I can't do blank, and I'm not good at blank. Add the word. When you catch one, I don't want you to argue with it, judge it, or feel bad about it. I just want you to do one tiny thing. Simply add the word yet to the end of the sentence. That's it. That is the entire challenge. If you catch yourself thinking, I'll never understand how to use this new software, just gently correct it in your mind. I don't understand how to use this new software yet. If a friend asks you to play tennis and your automatic response is, I can't play tennis, try saying it out loud. I can't play tennis yet. If you're struggling with the project and the thought, I'm just not creative enough for this, pops into your head, just tag on the magic word. I'm not creative enough for this yet. Why this works. Now, you might be thinking, Ollie, come on. How is adding one little word going to make any real difference? It's a fair question. The magic here isn't that you will instantly, magically believe you can do anything. The goal for these first 3 days is not to change your beliefs. The goal is to build awareness. You cannot fix a bug in your code if you don't know where it is. Right now, your FixedOS is running on autopilot. It's a background process that has been running for so long, you don't even notice it's there. This challenge is like running a diagnostic scan. It forces you to notice the exact moments when your programming is limiting you. Every time you catch a fixed mindset thought and add yet, you are doing 2 incredibly important things. You are interrupting the pattern. You are throwing a spanner in the works of that old automatic script. That brief pause creates a space, and in that space, a new possibility can grow. You are performing a mental rep. Remember, your brain is a muscle. Each time you do this, you are strengthening the neural pathway for the growth mindset. You're beginning to wear a new, more positive path in that forest we talked about. The first time feels a bit silly, the 10th time feels a bit forced, but by the 100th time, it starts to become the new default. Don't worry about believing it at first. Just do the exercise. The action comes first. The change in belief will follow. This is your first step in actively designing your own mental operating system, instead of just using the one that was installed by default. So, for the next 72 hours, you are a yet detective. Notice the words, add the word, and see what happens. You've got this. You've learned about the blueprint, and now you're ready to lay the single most important part of your foundation. Let's get to work.
Conclusion: the blueprint is just the beginning. All right, friends, and just like that, we're at the end of part 1. We started this journey by imagining our brains as computers, each running one of 2 operating systems, the rigid and limiting FixedOS, or the flexible and powerful GrowthOS. We explored how the "I'm not good at" fallacy is just a piece of buggy software designed to keep us safe in our comfort zone, and how reframing failure isn't just a nice idea, but a practical strategy for learning anything. Think of what we've just done as drawing up the architectural blueprint for the life you want to build. We've focused on the most fundamental, most critical part of the entire design, your mindset. This is the foundation upon which every other wall, every window, and every roof will be built. Get this part right, and the entire structure will be solid. Get it wrong, and even the most ambitious designs will eventually crumble. You now have the understanding of this blueprint. More importantly,
If you're taking on the Yet challenge, you have the single most important tool to start making real change. You've taken the first active step. You haven't just read a book, you've picked up a tool and started the work. That is not a small thing. In fact, it is everything. But here's the crucial truth. A perfect blueprint is just a piece of paper without a construction crew. A solid foundation is just a slab of concrete until you start building the walls. You've just laid the single most important piece of your foundation, the right mindset. But a blueprint is useless without action. In part 2 of this series, we're going to build on this by installing the engine of success, your daily habits. We'll explore how to turn good intentions into automatic behaviors that work for you, not against you, creating the momentum you need to bring your blueprint to life. To make sure you don't miss that crucial next step, look out for the next book in the series, the Foundation Series 2 of 5, The Automatic Architect. Thank you for taking this first foundational step with me. I am genuinely so excited to see what you build. Cheers, and I'll see you in the next one.
And just like that, you've laid the first brick. Thank you so much for listening to the very end. The ideas in this book are simple, but when you apply them, they are absolute game changers. That little word, yet, can truly rewire your entire approach to challenges. And now, I have a quick question for you. Down in the comments, let me know. What is one I can't or I'm not good at statement that you are going to start adding yet to? I'd love to read your answers and support you. If you found any value in this audiobook today, if it sparked even one new idea for you, it would mean the world to me if you could hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow and tells YouTube to share this with other people who might need to hear it. And most importantly, this is just the beginning of our journey. This was only part 1 of a 5-part series. New audiobooks drop right here every single Saturday, and you do not want to miss the next one, where we build on this foundation by installing the engine of success, your daily habits. So to continue this journey with me and level up your life every single week, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. Thank you again for investing this time in yourself. I'm Jo Herica, and I am so excited to see you right back here next Saturday.